Hello everyone, and thank you for coming back to yet another episode of The Gloving Paradigm. I am your host, Peter, aka LPD8 Dubuque, and this week's going to be a very fun week because I'm going to be covering a very fun topic called the 5 deeds and peeves of Glovers. Now, what brought this little topic about was me pretty much watching a YouTube video of a channel that I watch purely for entertainment value, and they were talking about 5 good and bad habits at tournament settings. Now, that's pretty much what they were talking about was, in particular, was like game stores, like local game stores for card shops or whatnot. And I thought this would be really fun to do because at the time when I was thinking of this topic was there was a lot of different competitions going on, bosses were going on, there was a couple of festivals going on. So I felt like this would be really fun to do about gloving because it's, you know, everybody's kind of in that mindset for this topic, so I figure why not do it. So what is a deed and what is a peeve? Well, a deed's a good habit and a peeve's a bad habit. So a good deed, for example, in my opinion, when it comes to especially competitions, you know, everybody knows, at least by now, that I'm a huge Magic the Gathering player. That is my competitive outlet. Okay, so everybody should know that I'm a huge Magic the Gathering player. One of my favorite things about competitions was, you know, a good example I always did was shake hands with my opponent, introduce myself, and then after the match, I would, you know, again, shake that person's hands, good game, actually talk about the game that we had, well, the match really, and just have a nice little conversation before the next round started. Not going to go into a whole huge deal about the tournament format for Magic, but I feel like that's something I'll probably cover on a later episode. So with that being said, that's pretty much good deeds that I like to do is, you know, just having good sportsmanship, shaking hands, talking to my opponent, being very communicative, and actually having conversations with them after the match. You know, a good example of a peeve for me, especially when it came to competitions, was just the overall bad attitude people would get for losing. You know, I totally understand that when you're in a competition, your goal is to win and that you want to be the best. I totally get it. I've been there myself. I've been the type of person who's like, I'm going to be playing the best decks in the metagame. I'm going to just, you know, be one of those people who just know how to play the format very well. Yada. I totally get it. But, you know, some people just get really high strung on the whole idea of it. You know, a good example that I want to talk about was there was this guy that I knew at this game store, and it was a lovely little pre-release, which if you guys don't know what a pre-release is, it's pretty much just a special event where they preview all the new stuff for the game before it actually comes out and be on to the, you know, on the sales floors. At the end of the night, this guy did not do very well at the pre-release tournament, and he was very upset, that to the point where he ripped up all of his cards that he got from the pre-release and just kind of stormed out and kind of left a sour taste in everybody's mouth. That's an example of a peeve of mine, is just, you know, taking things a little too far, or not necessarily taking things way too seriously, just taking things too far. And to me, that was taking things too far. So those are your examples that I use for deeds and peeves. You know, granted, I'm sure everybody's tired of me talking about Magic the Gathering. There should probably be a podcast where I do that, which, if everyone remembers, I told you that I did, but then it didn't do very well, so I decided to do this. So with that out of the way, let's actually dive into the first 5, which are your deeds. So the first one is good sportsmanship. Your second one is going to be strong critique. Your third one is going to be engaging with others. Your fourth one is being prepared. That's a big one in my book. And the fifth one is respectful courtesy. So we're actually just going to go through these very quickly. So good sportsmanship. So like I was saying with my example of deeds, shaking your hand before the match. You know, shaking your opponent's hands before the match, really. And, you know, just being, you know, whether the outcome is good or bad for you, you know, you don't let it get to you. You, instead of letting it bog you down and say that you're a terrible competitor, you should be using that as a learning experience to get better. One of the biggest things I always tell a lot of newcomers, whether it be with Magic or with gloving or whatever the case may be, it's not about winning or losing. It's about becoming a better player / person / glover, win or lose, whatever the situation may be. In this case, it's becoming a better glover, win or lose. You know, and I've played in Magic tournaments. I've done Super Smash Brothers original tournaments when I was a kid, when I was like 12. So I know how that goes. I did Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments, which, woo, those were interesting. So, I've done my fair share of different types of competitions. And my husband was a huge ballroom competitor. He's done all those big ones that happen in New York, like the big prestigious ballroom competitions. He has a couple of trophies somewhere in his family repertoire somewhere. I don't really know where. Half of the stuff when it comes to this competition is either his sister has it or some other brother or sister has it for some unknown reason. I don't know. Whatever the case may be. So I've been around enough competition environments to kind of see an overarching theme when it comes to P's and deeds, right? So you got good sportsmanship where you're just shaking hands, you're just being respectful, you're actually having a good fun time in competition, and not only are you competing trying to win, but you're also motivating your other competitors to bring out their best A game, because like me, I want my opponent to bring out their A game. I want to have a challenge. Especially when it came to Magic. I know now my current state when it comes to Magic, I don't like playing meta decks because I just know how to do that. I know how to play meta decks because the information's out there, so it's easy for me to obtain and master. What I like to do is actually build my own decks to attack the metagame, because to me that's more of a challenge. Do I win a lot? Not really. However, I do have probably one of the best games ever going on when I do that, because to me that's a challenge. And that's what I like. But again, I'm digressing. So next one is strong critique. Now when it comes to critiquing somebody, especially whether it be at venues or competitions, I'm a person who likes to be very hands-on. So not only am I going to talk about the things that I really, really liked from your show and possibly ask you, hey, how did you do that move? Or how did you have that sequence? Or what made you come up with that sequence? But I'm also going to talk about things I feel like you need to improve on. But not only just tell you like, oh, your liquid's sloppy, you need to fix it. I'm actually going to show you some of the things I've learned over the years and what works for me. Like a good example in my case is when it comes to my fingers being spread out. So like in the middle of like let's just say finger rolls, for example. At one point, especially when it comes to whips, my goal is to get my fingers in a position that I want them to be. So if you take your hand and you kind of do the whole, spread your fingers out like you're doing a finger roll, at a certain point, you're going to want your hand to look like your index extended all the way up and your ring finger is making a 90-degree angle with your index finger. And your middle finger is making a 90-degree angle with your ring finger. So, you got your 90-degree angle with your ring and index finger, and then your middle finger is supposed to be right in between those, making the 45 angle. And then, of course, your pinky needs to be 90 degrees with that, so it's making another 45-degree angle. That's one of those things when it comes to finger rolls. To me, especially when it comes to whips, your fingers are going to make that point, so why not make sure that you know how that's supposed to look? And if you actually think about it, that's where your fingers are going to be the farthest away apart from each other. But they still kind of end up in a line. Just simple things like that, where you actually are literally not only showing them how it's done, but you're actually like, I actually will grab people's hands and actually put them in a placement and actually put their fingers in that placement and be like, okay, do you feel how that feels? All right, now try to get there. Like I'm very hands on. Instead of just being what I like to call, there are two different types of bosses. You got the coal miner and you got the chain master. Now the chain master is pretty much the person who's sitting back there with the whip and whipping you and making you do all the work. A coal miner is going to get into the trenches with you and get knee deep in that crap and helping you get through it. That's how I am. I like being more hands-on and actually helping people that way. That's just how it works for me. Engaging with others, to me, it's just being very open and communicative with fellow glovers, regardless of the situation. If they want to trade and you don't feel like trading, just being open and honest with them is going to be helpful. It's one of those big things for me. It's just being open communication and just, most people are going to understand. Like, I can understand if some people get a little salty that you don't want to trade with them, but tell them that they can't do it at all during that entire time. Like, yeah, we'll eventually trade. Just, hey, like, give me a few minutes to catch my breath or whatnot. Being prepared is the next one, which is one of the big things I know a lot of people like to talk about, especially when it comes to me. Being prepared is huge because I don't like being unprepared, basically. where I'm going with this is basically, I know a lot of people will comment on this, but people who show up to venues without their gloves or don't have gloves and they just want to borrow everybody else's gloves. To a lot of people, that's one of the most infuriating things. And this whole idea that, telling them that you're a sponsor, what relevance does that have? That just tells, to some people, that just tells me that you're just clumsy and forgot your gloves. And, I don't know. I just feel it's weird when people are like, oh, I'm sponsored. Okay, what relevance does that have about you borrowing my gloves? To me, that's more incentivized for you to be more prepared than me. But I'm not sponsored, so I don't really have a say in that, right? The main reason why it annoys me a lot is because everybody should know, especially all my listeners, should know that I have a very unique setup. If you listen to my Archetypes 102 episode, you remember that I have the Enders archetype, which is my pinkies are underneath, my ring, index, and middles are on top, and my thumbs are on bottom. Hence the term Enders. The main reason why it drives me up the wall is because of that setup. And I will tell so many people and like physically show them with my hands and show them with my gloves. Like, this is how it's supposed to set up because this is how it works for me and this is how I have it configured. And to this day, people will still mess it up. I can't even tell you, like, every single person who tries using my glove set and I even show them will still on the first try stick their pinky underneath the pinky light where it's supposed to go above it. It's just, oh my gosh, people, I know we're in a dark little area, you can't really see, but I forgot, for God's sakes, I showed you with other lights and stuff. Like, it's just, excuse me. It's just one of those things that drives me up the wall. So being prepared is one of those big things that everyone needs to do. Whether it's just having an extra set of bats and an extra set of whites, or having 10 of each if you need to be that prepared, who knows, or having 3 glove sets with you is totally fine. If, in my opinion, if I'm going to go to a festival and if I actually put in the money investment, I'm going to buy 2 cheap sets of lights, like for example the ions, which are actually very good priced. That way I have my burner set, and I will have a set where if somebody needs to borrow my gloves, I will let them borrow that, and after the show they'll give it back to me because I'm not going to let them borrow the entire night. I'm not going to let somebody piss $60 away out of my pocket, right? So being that kind of prepared is great. If you want to go that step above and actually have an extra set for somebody to borrow when they don't have one, kudos to you. Just make sure you get your stuff back. And the last one with respectful courtesy is pretty straightforward. Just being open and honest, and not not barging in onto somebody's shows to do a random double when they don't, if they don't even know you. I find that very, very disrespectful because especially somebody like me who, when they start doing a show and they get really into it and all of a sudden these 2 extra hands show up out of nowhere and all of a sudden random stuff starts happening, yeah, I'm going to kind of freak out because I'm like in a zone, as most people will be in. So that's just one of those things. When it comes to being respectful and having respectful courtesy, is just, if somebody's doing a show, be respectful and let them finish before you actually talk to them or approach them. Not a huge fan of just random people trying to do random doubles with somebody you don't know. It weirds me out. That's just me. Okay. So now we get to the 5 P's. Now, the biggest one, especially when it comes to competition, this is something I really wish I didn't have to do, but it happens in every competitive setting I've ever been in, and it needs to be addressed. Bad hygiene, people. Bad hygiene is bad. Just wash your ass. It doesn't hurt. For God's sakes, I keep a bottle of cologne in my car, a stick of deodorant in my car, just for the sole fact that if I'm going somewhere, I can make sure I'm nice and freshened up. Okay? I can tell you from the numerous times I've been in Magic tournaments that I've seen rooms get cleared out by one person walking in. I've seen people literally get disqualified from Smash Brother tournaments because of their odor. Don't be these people, okay? Just wash your ass. We're not even asking you to like move a mountain or something or paint the Sistine Chapel. We're just telling you to spend 5 minutes running water over your body, sticking some soap in your hair, and letting water wash that out and putting soap on your body. Like, it's not that hard, people. Just wash your ass. It's not that hard. I will not want to go to a sanctioned tournament, especially when it comes to gloving, and walk in there and all I smell is BO. Now, on the inverse of that, I just want to put out, do not bathe yourself in Axe body spray. That does not count as a bath, okay? No matter how much cans of Axe you use, you're still going to smell like a bag of ass. I can't tell you the number of times I've had somebody walk in at a game store and douse themselves in Axe, and all we can smell is Axe, to the point where we're actually tasting it in our mouths. You know. Now, granted, I hope that's not a situation when it comes to gloving competitions where you're so cramped in that you're actually tasting other people's deodorant and colognes. But oh my gosh, I can't tell you the number of times. You know. So, just wash your ass, people. When you go to competitions, now I can understand when it comes to festivals, it's not as easy because there's not any shower places when it comes to festivals. There's a simple solution to that. I did this in the military for 5 years when I was overseas. Just bring a thing of wipes. You know, it could be baby wipes, hand wipes, whatever. Just bring a little thing with you. You can bring 2 of them with you if you use that much. You know, I sponge bath in the middle of the Afghani desert, naked. You know, I've been there before. I can't tell you the number of times I had to do that. I did that for years. So I know how weird it can be having to sponge bath yourself at festivals, but it is so important not just to make yourself clean, but just to keep your overall health in check. Okay? I can't tell you the number of times I've had people had to go to sick bay because they got staph infection because they decided they didn't want to wash their ass for a week. Okay? Alright, let me move on to everything else. I can go on for hours about hygiene, but I just wanted to give you guys that point. Like, that's how serious it is with me. Like, oh my god. Okay, peeve number 2. Prideful reservation. Now, what do I mean by this is, a lot of people have told me that it really annoys them when you have somebody who, lack of a better phrase, is rather egotistical, and they're very pompous, and they just are very conceited of themselves and their craft, to the point where if they don't think you're a very well-known glover or a very strong glover in the competitive scene, that they will just outright deny any opportunity for a trade with them, you know, or if you're at a competition and you just want to have a chat with them, they have their friends come up and kind of block you and wall you out and stuff like that. Like, I can understand certain well-known glovers just need some space because they're so popular that everyone wants to talk to them. But if you're just a regular casual schmo, or some people in some communities that I've been in like to call you a filthy scrub, you know, you have no real grounds to say that you're better than this person or better than that person, unless you have qualifications and accreditations that can prove otherwise. But the whole idea of just having like a posse keep everyone away from you if you're not that very well known and people just want to have a simple trade with you is just ridiculous in my opinion. But again, I can understand very well-known glovers having that just so they can have a barrier of space in between everybody. That's great. That's fine. I can totally respect that. Okay, so third peeve. This is one of my other big ones. Poor sportsmanship. I totally get it. You're in the heat of the moment. You totally want to win. You're doing everything you can. You bring out your A game and you still lose. I totally get it if you get a little salty. I totally get it if you feel like tilting out. But for God's sakes, do not do it to the other competitors, especially to your opponent. They're not the ones that are deciding your fate in the competition, especially when it comes to gloving. You know, it's the judges. Now, do I say you need to be salty towards the judges and belligerent towards the judges? No, because you're going to get disqualified. You know, it's, again, like I said earlier in this episode, it's not about winning or losing. It is literally just becoming a better person, win or lose. In this case, a better glover. You know, I totally get it. Like, you put all this effort in and you're still not getting there. You know, it can get very frustrating. I've been there myself before. But there is no reason that you need to lash out. If you're having a moment like that where you feel like you're going to lash out to somebody, go take a step outside, get some fresh air. You've been inside this room with a bunch of other people who are also sweaty and tired and heated, and you're in this dark room with a bunch of people and stuff. I totally get it. Just go take a quick step outside and get some fresh air. It's good to get some fresh air. I will do that when I was doing competitions. Now granted I was smoking cigarettes at this time, but I always stepped outside to get some fresh air. Granted I was smoking a cigarette, but the fresh air did always help me get prepared for the next round, mostly because I can basically wash away all the stuff that happened in the last round, take the lessons I need to learn from that round and move on to my next round. Now, if you're somebody who's dealing with somebody who's being rather salty and are tilting off, the very simple thing you just need to do is just apologize for how they are feeling and then walk away. Trying to calm them down is just not really going to work. So in my opinion, it's just best for you to just apologize for how they're feeling. Not that it's your fault that they're feeling that way, but just to apologize to show sympathy or empathy, whatever the case may be, and just walk away. They'll soon, diffuse and calm down, or they'll just leave. Either way, it's going to be good for you. But trying to engage with somebody who's being extremely hostile like that is just not going to end well. It's probably going to get you even disqualified because you might start an altercation with somebody, whether if they started it or not. Okay, so just be respectful. If somebody's tilting out, just distance yourself and let them cool down. It's the best way, and I've seen it all over the place. I've seen it in Magic, I've seen it in Yu-Gi-Oh!, I've seen it in Smash Brothers, I've seen it everywhere. I've seen it at backgammon tournaments before. Okay. So let's move on from poor sportsmanship. We'll move to number 4, which is being unprepared. I'm pretty much just covered that. Just have your stuff together. If you've been planning this trip, whether it be a comp or a venue, for weeks on end, at least a week prior before you're supposed to go, you should have everything packed, ready to go. And not only that, have a checklist to double check to make sure you have what you need to bring with you. I can't tell you the number of times how many people have told me how annoying it is when they have somebody who comes up and being unprepared and want to borrow their gloves. Like, I totally get it. People are very possessive of their things. They're very timid about letting people use their stuff because they're afraid they're going to run off. Especially in a festival, I can totally get it because they can run off in a crowd and you lose them forever. But, if you're a glover and you're planning on going to a comp or a venue, just take the time to prepare yourself. If you need batteries, order your batteries. If you need whites, order your whites. If you need extras of those, you order extras of those. You pack those in your things and you keep them clean and safe. That way you have them. You double, the night before you go, you do your whole checklist to make sure you have everything, pack it back all up, and then you go. As simple as that. Just preparing yourself is always going to help. I just don't want anyone getting so miffed because somebody asked them for their gloves. That isn't a security guard kind of deal. Alright, so the last one, disrespectful courtesy. Pretty much kind of ties into the same poor sportsmanship. Having your friends wall other people to keep them away from you. Just condescending towards other people. Not shaking hands at competitions before your round starts. All that stuff. Not taking the time to actually talk to people if they're trying to talk to you. Or just having any form of open communication and being respectful to everyone else. It's just one of those things. I'm not asking you that you need to be this good Samaritan where you hand out flowers and money and all this other stuff to help people. No. You just need to put yourself in a position where you can stay professional but still open and honest with everyone else. Because you don't need to come up with some stupid excuse of, I have a condition in my hand or whatever. Just be open and honest with everybody. All right. If you're tired, you're tired. You need a break, you need a break. If the person really, really wanted to trade with me, I'd be like, all right, go get me a bottle of water and we'll talk. Now I'm not saying that they should go buy me a bottle of water. If water has to be purchased, I will give them the money to go get it for me, and then we'll talk. And usually I will give the person a trade. That's just how I am. But if you're tired and you just need a break and people are on you about wanting to trade with you, just be open and honest with them, man. It's not that hard. It really isn't. And what are they going to do? Get pissed off at you because you're tired? Well, what do they want you to do? Be a robot with absolutely limitless energy? That's not how it works, Just, come on, people. If somebody says that they're tired, give them the space, Just say, hey, man, all right, that's cool. Do you need anything? Do you need me to get you anything? It's totally fine. I'm not saying that you need to suck up to these people. I'm just saying, at least be respectful to, ask if they need anything, or, just normal respect that people should be given to other people. Be a decent person is pretty much the bottom line on that. Okay, so I hope that these P's and D's show you what people are looking for when it comes to glovers, regardless if it's in a competition or at a venue. I do highly suggest that you guys try to work on these if you have some problems. Definitely avoid the 5 P's that I have on here, especially number 1 about bad hygiene. I cannot repeat myself over and over again about this, but last time I'm going to say this. 3 words: wash your ass. Okay, I really hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I really hope you guys have some feedback to tell me about this episode. I would love to hear your guys' 5 Ds and Ps when it comes to gloving competitions and or venue attendance, regardless of those two situations. I would love to hear what you guys have to say in terms of those. Definitely let me guys know. You can definitely hit me up on my Facebook page, which is the aptly named of this podcast. You can also hit me up at my email, which is muttonchopguy@gmail.com. You can also find me at Reddit, which my username is muttonchopguy, so you can always hit me up there. You guys can also get onto my Discord, which the link will be in this episode description. That is pretty much all for this episode this week. I'd like to thank everybody who's been listening and participating with me. Thank you for everyone who's giving me their feedback on this subject matter. You guys had some hilarious responses that I thought was great. And the biggest one that was always hilarious to me was the bad hygiene one, because I always knew that was going to be a situation when it comes to any competition. But it's just funnier to hear other people say it. So thank you for everybody who's been participating. Thank you for everybody who's been listening to this show. Thank you for all of your support. I'm your host, Peter, aka LPD8 The Buke, and I'll see you guys all next week.